Do you have a really epic bike, but it has a crusty old seat on it? Well, you came to the right video because this is how to reupholster your bike seat with Bike Guy Alex. Step one in this process is taking the seat off of your bike. And then once you do that, you're going to want to gather all of the materials that you need for this DIY. I'm using a multi-tool, but if you do not have a multi-tool, you're going to need some sort of screwdriver or Allen key to take off the hardware on the bottom of your saddle to remove the little plastic bits that cover in all of your loose ends. You will also need a fabric of your choice that you're going to reupholster your seat with, and a staple gun to attach it to your saddle. Now, if you do want to make this process a little bit easier, you will need some fabric glue or fabric adhesive to hold your fabric in place while you go around and staple the edges down. I did not use any fabric glue or any adhesive in this process. I just kind of stretched out the material and stapled it down and then moved along the seat as I went, and it turned out great. There was no issues in doing that, but if you do want to make it a little bit easier on yourself, some fabric adhesive will go a long way and will probably make this process a bit easier. So first things first, taking off those little plastic bits on the underside of the seat to expose the raw edges of the material that is currently on the seat so that I can remove the staples. I'm just using the flathead screwdriver side of this multi-tool to pry out all of the rusty staples that are in this bike seat. So if you are following along at home and have an old crusty bike seat like this, maybe make sure you're up to date on your tetanus shot so that you don't get stabbed by one of these and end up in the hospital. Or just be careful. Yeah, just be careful, be up to date on your tetanus shot. Either one works. After removing all of the staples that I could, I still had some staples that were stuck in there, so I went over and got vice grips. You can use pliers instead of the vice grips that I'm using. It's going to work the same. I just don't own pliers and for whatever reason only have vice grips. So that's what I use to grab the end of some of the staples that were stuck in there and pull them the rest of the way out. After you get all of the staples out, you're then going to start to pull back the material from the foam of the saddle. Be careful doing this because there is some sort of adhesive that holds down the material. So you don't want to pull off big chunks of foam, otherwise you're going to ruin your saddle, and even if you're able to reupholster it with those big chunks missing, your saddle's not going to be as comfortable as it once was. So be careful in the process of removing the material from the foam. And yeah, just take it slow and you'll finally get the old material off. Once you have the old material off of the foam, keep it around because we're going to use this to trace out a rough template for the new material that we're going to put onto the saddle. just cleaning up my workspace real quick because next we're going to trace out a rough template in the material that we're going to use to reupholster the saddle. I did a super rough template because you can always go back and cut off the excess material. And to be honest, it's helpful to have a little more material when starting this process than not enough. So having this pretty rough template and having a lot of excess material to pull and stretch around this made it very, very easy. If you want this process to be a little bit easier, I definitely recommend that fabric adhesive to just secure the material onto the seat while you go around and do the stapling process. The staple gun that I got was a cheaper staple gun, most likely just used for basic crafts and not necessarily reupholstering items, but it still worked really well. I just had a little bit of trouble ensuring all of the staples went in the first time, so I ended up going back around and just pressing all of the staples back in. But yeah, this process was actually pretty easy. If you do have a better staple gun than, one of those super cheap options, it'll probably be even easier than what I experienced. So, yeah. The hardest part was figuring out how to secure the material where the rails were because I couldn't get my staple gun in between the rails or even in a spot where I could secure the material down by where the rails were. So really struggled with that and ended up having to put a staple almost right on the lip of the saddle. I don't think it turned out noticeable at all, and I'm hoping that there isn't any issue with the placement of that staple, but yeah, I think that this transformation and reupholstering turned out fantastic and was actually super easy. So if you want to upgrade your bike and you want to do it for pretty cheap and in a very simple way, reupholstering your saddle into something really cool like this is a super achievable and easy thing that you can do as well. So yeah, last thing that I need to do is re-secure those little plastic bits to the underside of the saddle to hide all of my raw edges and mass amount of staples that I used to put this new material on the saddle. And with that all done, the whole reupholstering process is finished. So yeah, let's check out the results. I ended up going for this pink, purple, and blue cheetah print pattern. Uh, it was something that I found at an op shop that I thought was pretty eye-catching, and I like color, so decided to go for it. And I think it looks really good. It's definitely a unique saddle that nobody else is going to have, and I'm so stoked on how everything came out. Even the underside of this saddle doesn't look that bad. I was kind of expecting it to look pretty bad and say, well, you know, it's the underside, doesn't really matter, nobody's going to see it. But it actually still looks pretty clean and pretty good. So I'm super happy with this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you go out and reupholster a seat on your bike to give your bike that extra little bit of flair that it deserves. Anyways, I'll catch you in the next video. Bike guy out, baby.